So, I've been on TikTok recently. Now, don't click away. This has nothing to do with the skibbities or the bidabadobos or whatever she's called or something. I don't know what kids are on these days. But my For You page has recently started pulling up videos regarding the new Avatar series that was announced, and it brought back a lot of Korra hate. And a lot of these videos are actually mainly about why people think Korra is the worst Avatar, and I kind of agree that Korra is indeed the worst Avatar that we've seen so far, at least. But I have kind of different reasons as to why. Now, before y'all start cheaper town halling in the comments below, I'd like to clarify 3 different things. The first thing I'd like to clarify is that I do not hate Korra because she is a woman. In fact, there's plenty of different characters within the Avatar series that are indeed women and are well beloved. We have Toph, Suki, Azula, Katara, like there's a lot more characters out there. So if you hate Korra for being a woman, I think you need to reevaluate a lot of different things in your life. Number 2, just because the synopsis for the new series Seven Havens does indeed say that Korra caused the destruction of the world, or at least we're led to believe, I'm not gonna base that as a reason as to why Korra is the worst Avatar, because at the moment, we don't have context for that. I mean, literally the show was announced. We don't even know if it's made yet. In fact, we don't even know if it's going to come out this year or maybe it'll come out next year. I don't know, but we don't know because the show is not out. Like, fucking calm down, people. We don't know the context for that, so I cannot clearly base that as a reason at the moment. Number 3, in my opinion, I think The Legend of Korra is actually a good show. It's really hard to follow up on a legacy, especially one that's built by Avatar: The Last Airbender, and that show has been pretty much deemed as one of the greatest animated series of all time. So it's really hard to follow up on a legacy like that. There's plenty of amazing series or movies or shows out there that are great, but their sequels, So in my opinion, I think Legend of Korra does well on its own. But now that that's all cleared and out of the way, here are the reasons why I think Korra is the worst Avatar in my opinion. So the first reason I'd like to point out is that Korra, I think, was very immature compared to other Avatars, and she's very rash with her decision making, and she often likes to think more with her fists and bending rather than, with words or her brain. She started off the series thinking that being the Avatar was some kind of title that made her, I guess, better than people. And she does say, "I'm the Avatar, so you have to deal with it," like when she first shows up. She does grow out of this phase, kind of, but she still uses her Avatar status as leverage in other scenarios. And as I've said before, she often thinks more of her fists and bending rather than trying to de-escalate situations with her words at the beginning. Like, she's really hot-headed and lacks the patience to negotiate. This is also one of the reasons why she struggled to even begin learning airbending. Although she may have been a prodigy at learning the other elements, she wasn't very spiritually in tune with them and just preferred using her physical prowess. And concepts like learning spirituality with your elements and, airbending in general, these things take time and patience, and Korra really doesn't do those. While other avatars do speak of being impatient in the past, they showed that they were willing to grow and learn from that. Korra, on the other hand, said she would learn, but I don't think she really did. Another reason why I would say Korra's the worst avatar is possibly one of the ways she dealt with struggle and trauma. Now, I would like to say that this is a very serious topic, and for this reasoning alone, I will not be making any sort of jokes whatsoever. Now, dealing with trauma is something that doesn't necessarily have a direct solution. Although people point to therapy or talking it out with loved ones, that doesn't mean that will always work. However, I will point out that for many cases, being with loved ones at least does help start the healing process. Korra was very immature when it came to dealing with her traumas and struggles. This especially came out when she tried secluding herself from the world and her friends and family. Now, this points a lot of people to another reasoning about her basically abandoning the world when it was in turmoil. But to be fair, Aang and Kuruk have abandoned the world for a bit before. Although I don't know much about Kuruk's journey, Aang at least took the time to listen to his loved ones and actually sought after them after realizing that being alone will only increase his burden. Meanwhile, Korra spent months shutting herself out and went on her own for a bit. And the most like quote-unquote selfish part, I guess I would say about this is that she was also really scared to become the Avatar again because she was afraid that she would get traumatized again. Now in the case of being the Avatar, this is kind of something that she can't do, and it may be seen as incredibly selfish. In the case of being a person though, I would say that's very fair. Now I know this reasoning could be seen as controversial since it does talk about very serious things, and I'm like trying to throw in something about being the Avatar in there. So, but if you guys are willing to throw this argument out, I would be very much understanding because this is something that's very serious to talk about. Another reason for Korra being the worst Avatar, I would say, well, it does tie into the whole rashness part, is that she was very immature throughout the entire series, and it didn't show that she would grow, to me at least. Now this reasoning will probably bring up people saying like, oh, Aang was so immature throughout his entire series, so why don't you talk about that? Well, here's the thing. Aang was 12 in his series. Like, he's barely a teenager. He's about to become a teenager. I think 13 is when he became a teenager? Yeah, I think so, yeah. Now, Korra, on the other hand, is 17. She's on the cusp of being an adult. Now, don't you motherfuckers take this out of context. Don't you fucking dare. Like, what do you think this channel is? A Minecraft channel? Now, before I also mentioned her hot-headedness and her short temper, so this kind of ties in with that as well. Korra often goes off on her own impulses and has a short temper. When things like learning often get too hard or didn't go her way, she would just throw a bit of a tantrum because she wouldn't get it. It took trauma to get her to learn, which isn't really a good way to learn in general. Okay, but I guess I can kind of rephrase my reasoning from earlier then. Yes, Korra does grow. She does mature as the series goes on, but it does kind of concern me that it took her that long. Like, to me, I don't think it was a matter of, wow, she really grew. It was more of, wow, she finally grew. Now, I will admit that Korra has had new circumstances and difficulties that other avatars didn't go through. But to be also fair, that's kind of the case with every avatar. Every avatar so far has had a different journey and different sets of difficulties and problems that they had to overcome for the sake of world peace and, bringing balance to both the spirit and physical world. So I would say that, saying that, oh, Korra's like in the future, she's had different circumstances. I don't think that's a fair argument to make, honestly, because, well, I mean, like I said before, that's kind of the case with every avatar. But yeah, in terms of like stress and trying to develop from that stress, I would say every avatar's had their fair share of difficulties comparable to Korra in a sense. Well, to their age, I would say. And yeah, there's not a whole lot to compare them to because we know very little amounts of avatars like backstories. We only know like Aang's, Roku's. I think we know Yang Chen's and Kyoshi's because I think they have light novels, and we know Wan's because Wan's was shown in the Korra series. But overall, I feel like these characters have had some, well, not these characters, these avatars have had better developments than Korra overall, and their stories were written better than Korra. So maybe it's also the writer's fault that Korra is a bad avatar. So does this mean that Korra is a bad character though? Absolutely not. I think Korra is a great and well-written character, but she's just not a good avatar. Like, the distinction needs to be made that avatar and character need to be separate. And I think what should be said is that Korra is a good character, but not a good avatar. Korra is a very complicated character overall, and she does display some amounts of growth overall. But does this correlate to... excuse me? But does this correlate to her responsibilities as an avatar overall? There's kind of a gray area. It kind of correlates in some aspects, I would say. But honestly, I think there's more arguments out there with people talking about like her feats and all that and her strength, like, oh, like she's never beaten her own villains before, and like Aang solo to Ozai. Oh, Korra's team is trash, and Team Gang is much better and all that stuff. But I think it's just better to talk more about like their individual roles as avatars more than those kinds of comparisons. But yeah, these were kind of like some of the reasons why I thought Korra was the worst avatar compared to like the rest of the avatars. Again, like I said, she's not a bad character. She's not the worst character within the entirety of the Avatar series. There's definitely worse characters than her. Like, oh boy, I'd say Mako is like probably one of the worst characters in the series. But she's not one of the worst characters. She's just the worst avatar, I would say. But yeah, if you have a comment or you have a reason going against me, going, you know, along with me or anything, or, you know, another opinion of yours, put them in the comments below. As I've always said before, I always encourage people just writing down their own thoughts and personal opinions in the comments below, whether it be an argument against me, an argument for me, or just a separate argument out there. I do genuinely enjoy reading those conversations and those comments. So yeah, throw out a comment out there in the comments below regarding the topic of this video. But yeah, that's all for this week's video. Peace. Okay, you probably thought the video was over, but I just wanted to throw in another subtle plug. So last week I released a new single on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever. But yeah, I released a new single. I do work on music as a hobby sometimes. This YouTube channel is one of my hobbies, but music is also another hobby of mine, and I've recently gotten back into it. So if you guys would like to check out, if you guys would like to check out my other channel, which is my music channel, please do so. I've also posted my music there, or if you guys just want to listen to the song, I've put the links in the description below. But yeah, if you guys make it to the end of this video and you guys watch this part, I really appreciate it. But yeah, for real now, peace.